Hey guys, Doterian here, back with another Last Epoch video. So today we're going to be talking about the 4 best tools in Last Epoch that will help you plan your builds, get ideas for new builds, min-max your damage, and look up information. But before I get into this video, if you find the information helpful, drop me a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. Now, all of the 4 resources that I'll be talking about have been around since early access, and a lot of work has been put into them already. So you'll find all the information in all of these resources. First is Last Epoch Tools. Now, the best thing I find about Last Epoch Tools is that you can log in and you can plan your own builds. So first thing is you can choose your class here. As you put in your items and your blessings, it will literally show you your attributes, resistances, and defenses on the side. You can also see what your skills do, what each node of your skills do, and plan out your skill tree. You can also put in passive points and plan out your entire build. You also have conditional modifiers that you can put in, for example, current health, whether you're moving, channeling, transformed. You can literally put all of your conditions in. The other parts of this is under resources, you can find every single item in the game. So if you go to items, if you go to unique and set items, you can literally type in any item. So for example, if I type in Reign of Winter, I can look up the Reign of Winter bow. I can see all of the stats on it, what the roll range is. If I hover over certain tooltips, I can see, and also it will tell you exactly where this item drops from. So some items are only dropped from certain bosses or certain cases. In this case, you can look this up in Last Epoch Tools. Second resource that we want to use is Tunklab. So Tunklab is really helpful in that you have all of the classes that you can go into, so you can look up all of the skills as well, much like in Last Epoch Tools, but it looks more simpler. The other is you can go to certain sections. So for example, if I go to endgame here, I can see all of the different stats that are in different timelines. So if, for example, I go to the Age of Winter timeline, I can see all of the different blessings that will drop from this particular timeline and what the roll ranges are. And also I can easily see what items will drop from the boss. Down below here as well, you can see every single modifier that will be applied in that particular timeline, as well as the rewards that will show you as well. The other really cool thing about Tunklabs, and this is what I usually do as well, is you have an EHP calculator. Now, EHP stands for Effective Health Points. Effective Health Points means that if your character has 2,000 health and a 50% damage reduction modifier, then essentially your character has 3,000 health. So effective health is taken into consideration all of your armor, all of your resistances, your endurance, dodge chance, all of these factors in terms of determining how much damage your character can actually take. So here, for instance, if I type in 2,000 health, if I have an armor rating of 1,000, this will give me a 23.7% damage reduction. And if, for example, we take into account that we have maxed out resistances, so 75% resistance with a very basic endurance of 240, which is quite low, this will give us a 20% damage reduction once we're below this threshold. So this effectively gives us 2,700 health. And this is a very easy way to calculate how much damage your character can take. Now, it's a little bit different when you're actually in the game and playing the game, but as a rough estimate, the EHP calculator on Tunklabs will give you different scenarios that you can simulate in terms of how much damage your character can take. Now, there's also different graphs like armor, block, and dodge. So if, for example, I go to the armor table, you can see here it shows us based on what the area level is. So let's say we're at level 100. If we have a certain amount of armor, this will show us how much damage reduction by physical and non-physical damage that we will mitigate. Going through these tabs as well, it shows you armor shred as well. Okay, the next resource that we're going to go through is Maxroll. So Maxroll is really good in that they have really long articles and guides for beginners to show you exactly how certain mechanics work. So we have buffs explained, damage explained, walkthrough of the campaign, how to gear your character, as well as the different endgame systems that we have in the game. The other good thing about Maxroll is that under build guides, there are a ton of different build guides that you can plan for different characters. So if, for example, you're playing a Primalist and you are playing the Druid class, it shows you there are certain guides that you can have, particularly with leveling, for example, as well as different ideas for builds that you can do as well. So if you click on any of these builds, this is a Frostbite Swarmblade Druid. It shows you roughly how to build your character. If you scroll down, it shows you exactly what points to put your skills in, what passives to take, what blessings to get, what idols to get, all these kinds of things. Lastly, the most important resource of all is the game itself. So in the game, underneath the settings, you have the game guide. The game guide will show you exactly how to do certain things, how certain ailment works, how block works, how endurance works, how different combat mechanics work, how the endgame systems work. All of these are explained. So if you're confused about what the ailment does, you can have a read through it, and it's very, very helpful. The other is each skill that you have shows you everything that you need to know about the skill. If we go into the skill tip and go Alt, you can see everything that you need to know about this particular skill. So for example, Lunge here, it can tell you it does 54 damage, it has 5 mana and a cooldown of 3.4 seconds. With the scaling tags, you can see it scales with physical, melee, area, movement, traversal, strength, and dexterity. So on your gear, if you want to improve the damage or whatever on this particular skill, you want to get these particular skill tags. Now, as you advance through the skill tree, different things will adjust. For example, this particular node here increases the cooldown on Lunge, but adds a charge on it. So this makes it so that you have 2 charges, but now your cooldown is longer. So this will manipulate certain things about your skills on the skill tree. You can also see with strength scaling, once you put a certain point into it, it will give you a certain modifier. So for example, if I put strength, it gives me 4% increased damage per point. You can see my character has 23 strength. This means 4 times 23 gives you 92% increased damage. Whereas dexterity, I have 6 dexterity, it gives me 24% increased damage for scaling into dexterity. Now it also tells you that some skills, added damage is applied at 100% effectiveness. This means if I get skills or gear that improve lunge damage, it's added at 100% effectiveness. Certain skills will apply different effectiveness in terms of damage. So for example, Javelin here shows you down the bottom, the 100% AT added throwing damage effectiveness applies to all added throwing damage, including added throwing damage that was converted to your spear's added melee damage. So this particular skill tells you that if you have a spear equipped, the added melee damage from your spear applies to the javelin as added throwing damage at 30% of its normal value. Added melee damage from other sources has no effect, and added throwing damage applies at 180% effectiveness. So the skill itself tells you exactly how to deal your damage and how to scale your damage. Now, if you want to test your damage on the training dummy in Last Epoch, you actually have to go to an area called Champion's Gate, which is in Heoborea. So if you zoom out here, you can see this is Heoborea. You actually need to go through the Wengari Fortress and get to this area called Champion's Gate. Now at Champion's Gate, there is a section here which has the training dummies. There are actually quite a few different training dummies. They're all the same, but they're just positioned differently so you can do different things. It would be good if they just put the training dummy in the end of time. That way we don't have to find it separately, but it is what it is. So yeah, under Champion's Gate, you can find the training dummies to test your damage. Alright, that's it for this video. If you learned something, drop me a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and as always, have an awesome day. Bye for now.